Hello everybody, good evening, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news, and we've got lots to get into tonight. I was going to do a preview for Brighton. One, it feels to it. Who has knocked me Duncan Edwards book over? I'm not having that. That's a bloody crime. That's a crime. Who's knocked that over? It's probably the bloody snow. Lots to get into on the show tonight. We'll be talking about Tuchel being the favourite. Is it Spin or is it Grin? We'll also be talking about Ole being snubbed. There's more talk that Ole might not be the interim now. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Bruno exit. A lot more as well. And also, big news. Surely worth a like on the video because a lot of you have been asking for it. Not the snow. The 58 are going to protest ahead of the Fulham game next month, citing their owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, as an incompetent clown. So this protest that was going to take place ahead of the Arsenal game, but United fans told them not to do it because they thought they were getting belabor, and they told them to leave Sir Jim Ratcliffe alone, has been delayed, and now they're going to do it ahead of Fulham, and they are including Sir Jim Ratcliffe in that. So look, what it'll amount to, some people say, well, nothing will come of it, but if you do nothing, then nothing happens either. So I think it's a good thing. And I think it's good that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is included in it, because he did say if he gets much more pressure, he'll go. So maybe it's a clever move to include Sir Jim Ratcliffe in it. Look, lots to get into on the show tonight, and it's an evening show, so get your thoughts in. It's not an 8 o'clock show because I'm actually on That's Football for Arsenal against Liverpool. But look, maybe those protests will lead to signings as well. Matt, our producer, instantly said we'll probably go and sign Ruben Neves now. I mean, I actually want a midfielder in January. So if talk of protest and talk about the owners being crap, they have got form for that. They genuinely have. If you put we said this on New Year's Eve. If we want things to happen, we've got to put pressure on the ownership. And protests and constantly talking about how bad Wilcox is and how bad Sir Jim is puts pressure on them. And they're sat there going, I don't like this pressure. How do we stop this pressure? You know, we thought Ole at the wheel was going to work. Maybe we do need to spend money. So look, you know what? People might not agree, but I firmly do. I think that, you know, putting pressure on them might lead them to buying a Conor Gallagher or a Ruben Neves, which improves our chances of Champions League football, which is absolutely essential. We can't go back now. Ruben's gone. So we've got to go forward. Yeah. Before anyone gets into it, Mark's got his farmer top on. I've heard it all before. I actually think it's a nice jumper, but some people think I'm trying to be that Caleb from bloody Clarkson's farm. It's snowing out there. I had to get the sheep in. It's absolutely chucking it down out there. You know, I'm actually after Arsenal Liverpool, I'm going to do an Instagram live and walk around in the snow. So get onto @Goldbridge Mark. But I mean, I have got my farmer jumper on because I had to get the sheep in. It's freezing. It is, you know, loads of people say it's not going to snow. It will just be rain. I looked out the window at 6 o'clock. It's already snowing and it's meant to do it for the next 6 hours. Probably have a bloody power cut or something. It's like the 80s. It's like the 80s. Anyway, look, lots to get into. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Where to start, I suppose. Mike says, put as much pressure on them. We need a midfielder now, not in a couple of weeks. We need them in now, and sack Wilcox as well, says Mike. Hello, Mark. Glad to be part of this community, says Joel. Just on Jason Wilcox as well, I've spoken to a few people over the last couple of days, and in fairness, like, as much as I think he's absolutely rubbish, and I blame him for everything that's going on around the team at the moment with Sir Jim and Barada, I've got to say, I'll always report fair, even though I get very angry. A lot of people have said he's a nice guy. Now, that might be a problem in itself. Maybe he is a really nice guy, but do we need nice guys at Man United? No, Ollie's a nice guy. You know, maybe Jason Wilcox is a nice guy. It should never be about him as a person or, you know, whatever. But as a Man United director of football, he's crap, in my opinion. So, hello, Mark. Glad to be part of this community, says Joel. Wish we had Al Sheikh to buy out the club, says Movie Montage. Heard you, don't know what that's all about, from C. Jordan. Okay, let me get into the show then. So where we are now in relation to news, obviously got the protest. Hopefully that will kick United to do some transfers because they weren't going to do it, make them panic. There's a lot of people talking about Tuchel today being the favourite for the Man United job. Personally, I think this is spin. I really, really do. I really, really doubt that Man United have put it out there in the middle of January, 4 days after sacking Ruben Amorim, and when they're about to decide on who the interim's going to be. I really doubt they've rang up a couple of journalists and said that Thomas Tuchel's their guy. it's way too soon. And actually, it would be idiotic as well. I would be actually angry if the club have decided Tuchel's the manager in the summer now, because it's too early. You've got to go through a process. What's basically happened is Fabrizio Romano has put an article out today, or has said today, that when Ten Hag was going to get sacked after the FA Cup final, we held interviews with De Zerbi and Thomas Tuchel. And Thomas Tuchel got quite close to taking the job, but decided against it. I don't think he was impressed with the interview process. I think Sir Jim had gone cycling or something. So he decided not to take it. So we got very close to taking Thomas Tuchel, and I think United did want to take him, but he didn't take the job, so we kept Ten Hag, etc. I think some journalists have taken that update from Romano, which is which is old news, and said, "Oh, he's the favourite." I think it's spin. I think if you start talking about the summer, it's a bit like the midfield. We need a midfielder now. We're going to get Elliot Anderson in the summer. He's a top priority, and Adam Wharton is as well. And it's like, one, it's the summer, and two, we might not get them. And I think it's spin. I think it's the same with Thomas Tuchel. I think it's, yes, he probably will be on the list, but two, he wouldn't be even talking to us anyway. And three, it's just pure spin. So I don't think it's true at all. What I will say is, and I'd forgotten to do the video on this, so bit of an exclusive tonight based on information I've had for a couple of weeks, actually. I wouldn't rule out Pochettino. I really, really wouldn't. Now, I don't know what I think about it, but just based on a couple of conversations, I wouldn't rule out Pochettino. Remember I said the other night, and I didn't say it, and then I was going to do a video about it, and then I forgot. Pochettino is definitely going to be a name that Man United look at. He's come close to getting the job a couple of times. I'm trying to figure out who it would be in the club, because Pochettino we looked at when Ten Hag got the job, which was pre-Ineos. It might be Joel Glazer. I don't know, but there is definitely going to be interest in Pochettino as well. So obviously Tuchel is an England manager. Pochettino is at USA. Ancelotti, Brazil. But I wouldn't rule out Pochettino as well. But it's ridiculously early for people to be saying 3 days, 4 days after Amrim's been sacked that Tuchel's the favourite. I mean, he might be the bookie's favourite, but United have got to interview all these people. And I'd actually be surprised if we went for somebody like Thomas Tuchel or Pochettino or Ancelotti, because they're too experienced and they're too competent to work under Barada and Wilcox. So I'd be very surprised if we went for someone like that. I think we're more likely to go for a younger, more inexperienced coach, to be honest with you. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Tim, so no, I know there's a lot about Thomas Tuchel tonight, but I do think it's pure spin. A director of football is essentially the equivalent of the general manager in North American sports. How do you rate Wilcox as a talent evaluation, says Tim. Look, I feel that, we're sort of going round the mill a little bit. I mean, I do not rate Jason Wilcox. I think he's massively he's responsible for Amorim. The way I look at the Amorim situation is there's clearly been a fallout to the extent that Amorim has wanted to go and United have had to let him go. I look at the director of football, he's a learner driver. He's very inexperienced. And I look at someone like Berta at Arsenal, and if he had the issues that Amorim's had, would it have led to Arsenal sacking Amorim 3 points off fourth place? I don't think it would. I think when a manager and a director of football fall out, it's not a 50-50 thing. The director of football's job is to be the buffer between the manager and the board, and to manage that situations in the interests of the manager and the board. For him to fall out with Amorim and Amorim have to be sacked, he hasn't managed that situation very well at all. Whether it's his communication style, his inexperience, whatever, I think that is a really bad indication. And I don't know whether the club are going to look to sack Wilcox, but if I was his boss, I'd be saying, this isn't a 50-50. This isn't about picking sides. As the director of football, you're meant to manage Amorim, and you're not meant to fall out with him. So how has that happened after a year? How have you got to a point where I've had to sack him because you fell out with him? That reflects on you. And he is a learner driver, and he is inexperienced, and maybe he is too nice. So, I don't think he's very good at the job. That's my perception. Ashley says, keep the good work up. Off to the game on Sunday. Hopefully there'll be a lots of Glazers and Jim out chance. Let them know what the fans feel. I think it's going to be a cracking game on Sunday, Ashley. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. We have to win that game, and Brighton play very open, so I think it will be a good game. Miu says we want Xavi. Romano spoke about Xavi today and said he's definitely open to coming to the Premier League, and he'd definitely be open to coming to Manchester United, but there's nothing concrete with Xavi, which means that there's nothing going to happen, is there? Because, we're talking to Carrick, we're talking to Ollie, we're talking to Van Nistelrooy, we're lining up people in the summer. There's a manager there free, and they're not even talking to him. So I don't think we're going to go anywhere near Xavi. Thanks for an awesome, as always, from South Africa, says Carl. It better be Spin. Tuchel is a knockout specialist. I can't trust him for a league campaign, says Hyder. Well, I suppose the only thing I would add to that is, would I like Thomas Tuchel at Manchester United? I mean, we have to try and move forward. As much as I think there's no way back and the club is finished, we have to try and find a way forward. At some point, I do want to re-engage in Man United and look forward and have a vision and be excited again. I don't know how that's going to work, by the way, especially with this ownership. But look, Thomas Tuchel is a good manager. Pochettino is a good manager. Ancelotti is a very good manager. These are all names that, you can't deny that they're good managers, but I just look at it and go, well, I think Amrim's a good manager. I think Ten Hag's a good manager. I think Mourinho's a good manager. I think Rangnick's a brilliant director of football. None of these people have worked, so why would Thomas Tuchel work? It's incredible, actually. I saw a piece from, I think it was Stephen Railston in the Manchester Evening News. Now, I'm not saying it's true. It could be bullshit. Sometimes it is with all of these outlets. But it basically said that Manchester United insiders are, I've got it actually, let me just read it. It's easier than speculating on stuff like this, but it's basically a dig at the players. So it says that, we're going to talk about Bruno in a minute. Manchester United's insiders have questioned the mentality of the players who have often failed to demonstrate the know-how to see out a victory after taking the lead this term. United insiders believe that they should have won against Burnley, which Darren Fletcher admitted when he spoke about dropping points during his post-match press conference. So United insiders, who are they, have questioned the mentality of the players who have often failed to demonstrate the know-how to see out a victory after taking the lead this term. I mean, I think this is brilliant. I think this is absolutely brilliant because, again, so Ruben Amorim's been saying this for a year, but we sacked Amorim. But Amorim was saying this, the players have got weak mentality. So, Man United insiders are basically saying what Amorim's been saying for 12 months. Are we meant to pretend that Amorim hasn't been saying it and Darren Fletcher's saying it and Darren Fletcher's the future? Because Amorim's literally been saying it for 12 months. Also, you've just sacked the manager and you're trying to spin it that the manager's responsible for everything. And now you're trying to say it's the players as well. So, I'm loving this. I'm loving this chaos because in the pie of blame, Amorim takes a proportion, the players take a proportion, and the owners and the board take the most. So I'm loving the fact that, they're trying to pin it on Amorim. Now they're trying to pin it on the players. Look, we already know that the players aren't good enough. Some of these players aren't good enough because some of them have been here for years. But our inability to hold on to a lead, if I'm being completely fair, isn't to do with the mentality of the players. The reason, my answer to that would be our inability to hold on to a lead is not because of the players. Our inability to hold on to a lead is because we don't have a midfield. We've been really bad at conceding goals for 3 years. Under Ten Hag, we were still losing at home to teams like Bournemouth and Palace. So we've been crap for ages. We've been losing for ages because our midfield is crap. You can't hold on to a lead and you can't not hold on to a lead and say it's mentality. When every goal we concede, you can see the midfield runners. You can see our inability to keep possession. That's not a mentality issue. That's an ability issue. That's an IQ issue. That's a lack of talent issue. So, look, I welcome this. If I was a Man United player and I was reading that, I'd say, lads, you thought they were trying to pin it on Amorim. now Amrim's gone and we've lost points to Burnley. They can't pin it on Amrim, so now they're pinning it on you. It's the blame game. It's the blame game. And it's clear as day what's happening. This is pure deflection. Amrim gets sacked. Let's try and blame it on Amrim. We drop points against second bottom Burnley. Amrim's not here. Let's blame the players. Let's bring Ole back for a bit of a feel-good factor. It's all spin, 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 spin. But the funny thing is, none of it's sticking. It's not like the snow outside. None of this is sticking. Everybody's going, seen this before, seen this before, seen this before. We all know what the real issue is. Get the protests begin. Let's get these owners out of the football club, because it's running thin now, isn't it, after 10 years? We can't just keep going round the same cycle. And if I was a player, I'd be fuming. I'd be fuming that they're now trying to pin it on the players, when it's very obvious to anybody with a tactical brain that the reason we can't hold on to leads is because we can't hold on to the ball, which stops the opposition having the ball, and we can't defend properly because we don't have a midfield. That is our biggest problem this season. And just on that point, I heard a lot of people after the game last night saying, I know we drew to Burnley, but, you know, it was so good to watch because we created 20 shots. You know, we were finally some attacking football. And I thought, you're talking like we're not in the top 3 in the Premier League for chances created and goals scored. We've been creating a lot of chances all season. Our attack is not our problem. Our attack is not the problem. It's the ability to turn scoring 2 goals a game into... I mean, we must be averaging over 2 goals a game. And I thought at the start of the season, if we were averaging 2 goals a game, we'd be winning a lot. But we don't, because we can't hold on to these leads, because we didn't buy anybody in the midfield, which is crazy to me. The only thing that the Glazers want to deliver is spin. More spin than a tumble dryer, says Mike JW. Tuchel in, may it come true. Glinios out, says Payu. And Patrick Lynch, for as clever a move as they think it was to sack Amrim, Wilcox and co have no lightning rod to take the pressure. They're the focal point of everything going on with the squad now, says Patrick. And I've been here since 33,000 subscribers, says Mr. USA 2025. Thanks, pal. This community is what will save the club. Never stop demanding excellence, says Mr. USA. Well, to be fair, I've had a few people speak to me in the last sort of 48 hours, and I've got to feed it back as an immense pat on the back to all of you. I believe we are, head and shoulders, the only community that is pushing the blame at the board and the owners consistently. Amazingly, there are a lot of people out there, journalists, content creators, etc., who are still trying to, you know, pin it on Amrim, or just get hype up the fact that Solskjaer's coming back, completely ignoring the problem, which is, you know, a testament to you lot that's, you know, the reality is here, isn't it? And big shout out to the 58 for the protest as well. You know, we might not have always seen eye to eye, but I think that, you know, like-minded people who have the best interests of the club at heart, you know, we can all be friends and agree on that point. I'm not a leprechaun, no, Sam. Xavi over Tuchel any day, says Hyans. And at least you have snow, Mark. There's none in London, says Captain. Yeah, but you do get nice weather in the summer. Okay, right, let's move on. What's the Ole SNUB, Mark? Okay, now look, don't take this as read, but the update around the interim is that they're happy with Fletcher and they want him to have the Brighton game. To me, I think if Fletcher beats Brighton, he might hold on to it. Apparently there is a feeling that Solskjaer coming back, and this is the incredible Man United machine and how it changes. 24 hours ago, it looked like it was going to be Solskjaer. 24 hours on, there are mumblings that it might not happen because they've seen the backlash from the media. You know, even on Match of the Day, they said it was embarrassing last night. Not the performance that Solskjaer was going to come in. And I think even in the fan base, it's 50-50. So you've got a fan base that are 50% against it. You've got a media that are ridiculing the club as embarrassing to do it. You've also got all the pressure because of what's happened with Amrim. There's starting to be a little bit of a shift from Solskjaer getting it to not getting it. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to get it, but he's certainly not as hot a favourite as he was 24 hours ago. Apparently, Wilcox is going to choose this guy, and he's on thin ice. So if Wilcox goes with Solskjaer and it all goes tits up, I think he's gone. So he's got to make the right choice here. And I think they felt that Ole was the right choice for the feel-good factor, But I think the kickback over the last 24 hours from the mainstream and some United fans has made them second guess themselves. Carrick has closed in a lot closer. There was talk of them both doing it together, but apparently that's not going to happen. They both want to be number one, and therefore they can't work together. And as I said, Fletcher is now back in the frame if he can beat Brighton on Sunday. So, you know, who would have thought an interim coach was going to take this much, you know, conversation? Tim says, what about Roy Keane? Absolutely nothing on Roy Keane. I mean, it's a bit like Xavi. I think it's a popularist choice, and it's not a bad choice, but there are no talks with Xavi and there are no talks with Roy Keane. So neither of those two looking likely at all. And remember, Darren Fletcher spoke to Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson was at Carrington on Tuesday with Barada and Wilcox. They'll be speaking to Sir Alex about the next manager. Sir Alex Ferguson and Roy Keane don't get on. So even if there was a chance of it, there's no way Sir Alex Ferguson's going to sign it off because him and Keane don't even get on. So, you know, that's never going to happen anyway, even if there was an opportunity for it to happen. So look, in relation to the interim, I don't think it really matters, honestly. I think we're going to continue to struggle. I think the back four is going to ship a lot of goals because they've been so used to playing in a 3, which gives you some security. In a back 2, you've got to do a lot more work. And with a midfield like that, you're going to get exposed. So, you know, I think we're going to concede a lot of goals unless we bring a midfielder in, which we're not going to do. But maybe the protests can spark that. I just don't think Carrick and Solskjaer, Fletcher. I mean, I just don't think the feel-good bus song is going to make any difference over putting your hand in your pocket. And I think it's going to be a real battle to get into the top 5 now. And that's going to be on the ownership. So, look, I'd flip a coin at the moment on we're in Europe or we're not. That's definitely how I feel. If somebody said to me, are we going to be in Europe in May? And we have to be. I almost subscribe to the view that you could say, I hope we don't qualify for Europe because it's going to really cause issues for Ineos and the Glazers. But that's such an uncertainty. Doesn't mean they're going to go. It means we've got no Europe again next season. I mean, I want to be in Europe. But I would flip a coin on whether we're going to be in it. I think it really is a flip of the coin. And you know what? I very much doubt anyone at United with any power is watching. But I'm being completely sincere. When Amrin was here, I think there was a very high chance that we'd get top 6, just on the trajectory of what we'd done at the start of the season, whether it was pretty or not. Where we are now, I think we're flipping a coin. And if you want to know how to flip the coin into Europe, you need to buy a midfielder in January. If you don't, I think it's flip a coin time, and it could go either way. Angel says it's got to be Carricky. Ollie has had his chance. I mean, look, I do agree. I mean, I absolutely think Carrick is the one to go for, or Fletcher. I wouldn't rule Fletcher out. I think he's spoken really well. He's played a back 4. He's put Bruno at 10. He's abandoned the long throw-in. So I don't, you know, as much as Fletcher's another yes man, we're going to get a yes man. You know, Fletcher is a Glazer man. He's been there for years, but Ollie's a Glazer man and Carrick will be as well. So, you know, any manager's going to be a Glazer man unless they start doing interviews saying they're knobheads, which is basically what Amrim and Ranić did, and they got sacked. So any manager that's going to come and work at Man United has to be a Glazer man, otherwise they'll get sacked. So, but look, I think Fletcher or Carrick for me because it's something new and we haven't seen it before. And if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But I think with Ollie, you know, we have seen it before and we've seen where it went wrong before. And a lot of people don't want it to happen. I think there's more, in a way, there's more positivity with Ollie because he's got a song and he's a nice guy. But in another way, I think there's more negativity with Ollie because the media are already on his back and some of the fans don't want him either. Happy 30th to me. Your shows this week convinced me to get my badge in. Keep pushing in the right direction. Jim out and the Glazers out, says POV UK. Thank you, pal. Axe says, did you see Ollie's overlap return episode and other recent interviews was like him getting recommendation to the United job? I haven't watched his overlap interview actually, not through any reason that I just think I just didn't watch it. Yeah. How scared will Ineos be of the 58? Says Rajaf. I don't think they'll like it. I don't know what it'll do, but I don't think they'll like being included with it. I think it will be a declaration of defeat. And I know some people think that the protests don't work, but I think they really do. And I think when you include Sir Jim Ratcliffe in it, it's a significant statement, because in the summer, they wanted to include Sir Jim Ratcliffe in it, and a lot of people kicked back because they thought we were getting Belabour and were like, it's not fair to include Sir Jim in it, it should just be the Glazers. 6 months on, nobody's going to batter an eyelid about Sir Jim Ratcliffe being in it. And whilst it might not make any change, I guarantee you, when you listen to some of the interviews that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's done, him being included with the Glazers in a protest is going to hurt, because he's been there only 2 years, and in 2 years you wouldn't expect to be included in a protest to get out of the club. You would think that you're going to score a few open goals and be the hero. So I think it will be a very big statement to include him in it. And, you know, of course, publicly they're going to say nothing, but I think privately it'll be a real kick in the nuts, because that's not what he came into the club to do. That's not what he's here to do. So it will be a big statement, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the outcome will be. Maybe it'll be the beginning of the end. Maybe it won't. But it will be a big statement of, you know, you were meant to be the saviour, you're meant to be the local lad, you're meant to be a lifelong fan, and actually your name's there with the Glazers. Get out of our club. That will be very significant, in my opinion. Dennis says, Bayern supporter here. One of the big reasons we sacked Tuchel was due to his public comments on our board. It would be comedy under the Glazers. Well, you know what, Dennis? And don't forget, tomorrow night, the Bundesliga returns after its winter break, unless you're getting snow as well. We've got an absolute cracker tomorrow night on That's Football. Frankfurt against Dortmund. One of the games of the season, live on That's Football, eh? Bloody hell, we're making moves, and it's all because of you. But no, Dennis, just talking to you as a Bayern fan there. But no, I think you're absolutely right. Tuchel had problems at Chelsea. He had problems at Bayern. So, again, that's why I think it's spin. I don't think Tuchel is what they're going to go for, because the last thing they need is somebody that's going to speak out again. So, how scared will Ini? I've done that one from Rajaf. Mike says, just think if he had bought a midfielder in the summer and sold a number 10. This is on the board, solely the board. The director of football should have had a plan, says Mike. Glazer plan working perfectly. We're blaming Ineos for staying. I mean, I don't really matter. It doesn't really matter. They're the same thing. They're Glinios. This isn't the first time they sacked a manager too soon. Same thing happened with Ten Hag, says Matthew. I mean, look, maybe tonight's not the time. But I always said there will become a time when we revisit the Ten Hag sacking and see it for what it was. A crap decision by the board. I think at the time, the Ten Hag sacking was seen as a good thing, because we went and got Amorim, which was very exciting, and nobody had any sympathy for Ten Hag because his personality was a bit dull. But now in hindsight, when you look at the Ten Hag sacking, and I remember saying it at the time, you know, we can all celebrate it and we can all get excited about Amorim, and I was excited about Amorim, but the treatment of Ten Hag from an ownership perspective was amateur. Like, you were going to sack him, then you backed him to the tune of £300 million, and then you sacked him in October. I mean, that's just an incredible mess up, isn't it? You know, you're going to sack him, then you back him, then you give him 300 million quid, and then you sack him in October. I mean, Lenny Yoro never played for him. Lenny Yoro never played a game under Ten Hag, but Ten Hag bought him. So, you know, that was a shit show as well, yeah. I think the biggest mistake they made is to believe we have good players and sack a manager that was actually building something mid-season, says Weekend Getaway. We can't compete if we have no midfield, says Mike JW. United lost its DNA and everything we used to be, says Irish Whiskey. Just imagine in 2026, this great community engineers the fall of Glinios and sends them all packing, says One and Only. I don't care who engineers it as long as it happens. Poch is a yes man, perfect for the Glazers, says Tex. Ex-players' criticism must be dealt with, says M. They ruin every manager's career. We don't see Ramos and Casillas do the same when Madrid going through tough times, and owners must be changed ASAP. To be honest with you, give me Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt calling the club out every day over Rio Ferdinand doing clips of PR about Jason Wilcox. I mean, you know, I'm up for criticising ex-players, of course I am, but I haven't got a problem with ex-players being critical when it's ready, you know. And, you know, in fairness, like, I think sometimes I'm trying to think of some examples, but look, like, obviously it gets in the head of the managers. Ten Hag mentioned ex-players, Mourinho mentioned ex-players, Amrin mentioned ex-players. It obviously gets in their head, but we have been shit for a long time. To me, it all comes back to the owners. It's not the ex-players' fault. It's not the manager's fault. It's the owners. The owners just leave the manager out to dry. I mean, I personally think, and Mourinho said it very, very well, when you're a Man United manager, you're the head of comms, you're the CEO, you're the owner, and you're the director of football, because no one else does any interviews. So you end up doing it all. And then when you're being criticised by these ex-players that have won things at the club, you've got no one to protect you, because you're just, you're getting it from everywhere. Realistically, we need a sporting director that speaks more publicly and takes on some of the responsibility. Communication is key, and they don't. They just all go, there's the manager, pile onto him, and they wonder when that manager snaps. If the coaches pick the team, could the director of football say, play this player because we want to sell him and we need to keep his price up? Pure nonsense, says David Benson. I'm still waiting for the pot ship. We passed in the night many years ago. I've never given up hope, says Nick P. Sir Alex loves Pochettino as well, says Robert McCormack. Well, look, a lot of people talking about Tuchel tonight. I'm definitely aware of two people this week mentioning Pochettino to me. One's very good, and I would say Pochettino's got as much chance of getting the job as Tuchel. I don't believe Tuchel's the favourite. I think it's just spin at a time where they're desperately trying to throw as many positive things as they can at you. POV UK, welcome to Members Club. I'm a nice guy, doesn't mean I'm good enough to be on the United board, says P. Don. And a director of football is essentially the equivalent. I've done that one as well. Okay, I want to talk to you about Bruno exit. Now, Romano has said that obviously the relationship between Bruno Fernandes and actually it was a really good piece as well. Where did I read this today? I don't know if I've got it for you. I don't know. I think it came from the same article of the, from the Manchester Evening News, but it also said several players have discussed several United players have discussed the togetherness within the squad throughout the season. Amrin improved the morale in the dressing room by banishing the bad eggs in the summer. Sources admitted Amrin had created a feeling of us against them after disposing of some big names. The 40-year-old received multiple well wishes from squad members on social media after his exit. Now, I think that's interesting because, the way Ten Hag, sorry, I keep calling him Ten Hag. The way Amrin got sacked was different to everybody else. Mourinho got sacked because the players turned on him and the results were bad. Ten Hag got sacked because the players had turned on him and the results were bad. Ole got sacked because the players turned on him and the results were bad. Amrin got sacked because he fell out with the board. The players really liked him. Although we're on the cycle, it is different because we didn't sack a manager for bad results and the players downing tools, which is which has always happened. A lot of those players really liked him, and it's because he fell out with the board that he's lost his job, which is quite unique because it's really important that the next manager builds on what we have done over the last 12 months. I agree with removing Garnacho and Anthony and Sancho and Rashford. I agree with that. That was the right thing to do. They all needed moving on for different reasons, and we need to do it a lot more. So that needs to continue. We must never forget that, although you might not have liked Amrin for some reasons, I do agree that a lot of the players liked him and we removed a lot of the right players. And, if you think players don't like him, Bruno bloody loved him, Delot loved him, Harry Maguire loved him, because Harry Maguire's going to struggle to play in a back four. 3 at the back was perfect for Harry. He had a career renaissance. Same with Luke Shaw. He's going to struggle to play left back week in, week out, whereas a back three suited him as well. So there's a lot of players that liked him, especially the newer players like Mbeumo, Ahmad did, Cunha. So that needs to be, monitored because these players liked Amrin and it's the board that have sacked him. So it would be ridiculous not to think that some of the players are sat there going, well, we didn't want the manager sacked. It's your fault. So you've got to keep an eye on that. And feeding into that about Bruno, Fabrizio Romano has said today that Ruben Amrin fought like crazy last summer to keep Bruno Fernandes at the club. Their relationship was very good, but with the manager gone, it doesn't necessarily mean Bruno will leave. Saudi clubs are going to return as the desire to bring him into the league remains. So look, I think a lot of people are thinking Bruno's going to go in the summer because he nearly went last summer. He doesn't have a very good relationship with the board. He spoke about that in November. He had a very good relationship with Amrim, and he's seen another project die. I mean, Bruno's seen more projects, hasn't he, than a bloody box of Lego. And I'm talking about, the Lego books where you can build lots of different things. I don't know whether you can do that anymore. Remember when you used to buy Lego? I don't think you can actually do that anymore. I remember when I was a kid and I used to get Lego, and you get like a castle, but then in the building book on the back, it would show you loads of different things you could build other than the castle. I don't think they do that anymore, so that's probably gone over your head. Anyway, enough Lego. Bruno obviously doesn't like the board. It's another project down. He's 31. He nearly went to Saudi in the summer. I think a lot of people think that he might go. Romano's saying that's not necessarily the case. I don't know. Again, it's a bit like European. If we don't get European football, Bruno will go. If we do get European football and we bring a decent coach in, he might stay. So if we got Tuchel or Pochettino or Ancelotti, he might stay. If we've got European football and a decent coach, he might stay. If Ole gets the job, I think he'll go. I think he'll say, I've seen this before. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Danch says, I'm going to run a poll on this. I don't like doing a three-way, not in a poll, in other ways. Who would you go for? The problem with the three-way is that you can get stuck on, if it was a two-way, you just go for the one you want. But if it's a three-way, you might actually be going, well, I prefer that one, but I don't mind that one as well. But you can only pick one in a three-way, can't you? You've got to stick it. You've got to stick your opinion in. Okay, there we go. What you think about the Bruno 65 million release clause, says Texas? If someone was willing to pay it, it's a lot of money. I say give Fletcher a chance, says Danch. We had great success with Scottish managers like Busby and Fergie. Moyes is a great manager, just not for us. Alex, welcome to the Members Club. Thanks for getting your badge in. You're an absolute legend. If you want to join the Members Club, click the badge. Click the Members Club. Thank you. Swedish media says Amrim's biggest mistake was not buying a midfielder in the summer and continues discussing how bad that was of him. Yeah, but Anton, look, you get bad journalism everywhere. We tried to buy Conor Gallagher and we wouldn't buy him. We wanted to do it on a loan. And we tried to buy Baleba, but we wouldn't pay what Brighton wanted. I mean, ultimately, that's not Amrim. That's two players who are midfielders that we went for and didn't do because of financials. So it's not on him, is it? Did the board really think they could admit that there's enough emergency funds to get Semenyo and we wouldn't expect those funds to be used, says Fruit Jacks. Let's not hope to Champions League so we can sack the board, says John. If Solskjaer gets the job until the summer, do a comparison between the team he had and the team he gets. Will he succeed this time round, says Jala. And did you see the clip of Gabby mocking you on TalkSport, says Josh. I have seen it. It's nothing. It's just, to be honest, I even think it's banter. I'm not bothered about it. Wasn't Carrick Ollie's tactician anyway? Ollie was the vibes front man. Not sure what Ollie alone would give us, says Nick P. Ray says Enrique for me, but an offer on the table. See what he says. I think give him full control and we will see the difference. And he ain't a yes man, says Ray. I mean, what now? They couldn't wait till the end of the season when they're waiting till the end of the season to choose a manager coach. We started something and completely demolished it in 24 hours because of ego and pride. Loads of likes on that comment from the Moose one. Look, I don't know how long we'll keep talking about this, but I just think it was a bad decision to get rid of Amrim. I really do. I know a lot of you wanted him sacked, and as I say, I respect that. But for me, always give him the season. Give him a player in January. What you've spent sacking him, you could have got a midfielder for, and then get to May, and then you got the manager market anyway. I mean, just it doesn't make any sense to me. I know people are saying it was right to sack him, but look at what we're doing. We're deciding whether to give it Fletcher, Carrick, or Solskjaer. I would have given him a midfielder in January. I would have got to the end of May, and then if he's done Europe, you carry on with the project, and if he hasn't done Europe, you sack him and you go straight into the manager market and go, Tuchel, Ancelotti. It was just, you're absolutely right, the Moose one. The only reason we're in this mess is because the board played the power ego play that was better for them and not better for us. Absolutely. I am fed up with this club. How many times should I bring my hopes up again? We have a board now, but we still sack the manager to bring in an interim. The funny thing is, it's an ex-manager as well, says Mirror. Thanks for your super chat. It's got to be Carricky, says Angel. Right, I've got to move because I've got to go over to That's Football for this Arsenal-Liverpool game. It's quite renowned. I'll tell you what, I don't know whether the club have picked up on this because when we did this on Monday night, it was 63% Ole and 37% Carrick. Last night, it was 63% Carrick and 37% Ole. Tonight, it's 57% Carrick, 20% Fletcher and 23% Ole. So Carrick is the resounding choice of the fans at the moment. I think the club cannot give it Ole. They can't. Even Gary Neville last night on Sky was sort of like, I'll back it, but I don't think we should be doing it. So I don't actually think the ex-players are on board with it. I know they like Ole, but I don't think the ex-players are on board with Ole getting it. I really don't. We've been there. We've done that. It's embarrassing. So, look, maybe he is still going to get it, but it feels like the front runner. You know, in a race, when someone runs off and you say they're going to win it, and then they run out, I think it's looking more and more like he doesn't get it. I'd give it Carrick. Give it Carrick. Let's see what happens. But I think Ole, no. But look, I don't know. I don't know. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. You are absolute legends. Love you. I've really enjoyed the content this week. It's been a big help, and I hope it's been a big help for you. The fact that we've been able to steer through such bad anger, frustration, and toxicity, and keep a tunnel vision on the real problems at United that reside with the board and the owners is a credit to you. It's been a really good week. I look at other content creators and journalists and I look at their replies and it's not a nice place. Whereas I think for us it's been all right because we've just been very consistent in the conversation we're having. The problem is the owners and the board. And I think, sticking to that, there's a lot of people that agree with that at the moment. So credit to you. Protests are coming back. Let's see what tomorrow brings. There's another press conference with Fletcher. I'm going to go and watch Liverpool-Arsenal. Bit of escapism. I'm going to pour myself a glass of red. I'm going to have a little look out the window and see what the snow's doing. Might have to go on Instagram again. See you over there. I'll be about 3 minutes. Take care. I'll speak to you in a bit. Thanks for watching.